One of the most revolutionary figures of the last century, his disruptive creations challenged society's status quo. He was the founder of a billion-dollar company that changed the world. Today, in our Hero's Journey episode, we're sharing the innovative trajectory of the visionary Steve Jobs, using the most famous narrative structure of all time, created by the writer Joseph Campbell. Let's divide Jobs' life into 5 moments: the ordinary world, the call to adventure, allies, villains, and the return. Jobs' ordinary world takes us back to the 1960s and 1970s in Silicon Valley, a period of bubbling technological innovation but still in the early stages of becoming the global epicenter of technology. Steve Jobs was born in San Francisco and raised in Mountain View, California. He had a complex family life, raised by adoptive parents alongside an adoptive sister. His father, Paul Jobs, was a mechanic and carpenter, and it's noteworthy that from an early age, Steve had access to a home workshop. His house became a playground for Jobs' curiosity. Although not an exceptional student in all subjects, Jobs had a keen interest in certain areas, especially electronics. Despite his obvious talent and interest in technology, conventional education bored him. Even though he was brilliant, he didn't feel compelled by traditional paths. Hence, right after graduating from high school, he decided not to immediately pursue college, opting for a culturally richer experience, demonstrating his willingness to challenge norms and follow his own journey. Here we enter the second part of his heroic journey, the call to adventure. During this period, Jobs also experimented with LSD, a practice he would later describe as one of the most important experiences of his life. He was seeking more than what a formal education could offer, thus delving into a personal quest for enlightenment that led him to explore philosophy and spirituality. At 19, after a brief stint at Reed College, attending some classes as an auditor, including calligraphy, which he would later cite as a fundamental influence on Apple's product design, he decided to travel. Disillusioned with formal education but deeply interested in Zen Buddhism philosophy, Jobs believed India, with its rich spiritual tradition, could offer the answers he was searching for. Armed with little more than cheap cotton clothes and backpacks, he sought to find Neem Karoli Baba, an Indian guru who had attracted the attention of many Westerners in search of spiritual guidance. However, upon arriving in India, he discovered Neem Karoli Baba had passed away a few months earlier. Undeterred, Jobs continued his journey, visiting various ashrams, which are spiritual communities, and exploring Hinduism and Buddhism practices. During this time, Jobs adopted a vegetarian diet of fruits and vegetables, practiced fasting, and dedicated himself to meditation and spiritual practices. In India, Jobs was also confronted with a challenging reality of the country, such as extreme poverty, cultural complexity, and poor sanitary conditions. This experience was both a shock and a revelation, exposing him to a reality far removed from life in Silicon Valley. Despite the hardships, the trip to India was profoundly transformative for Jobs. He returned to the United States with a shaved head and wearing traditional Indian attire, external signs of an internal journey that had changed his perspective of life. The experience reinforced his inclination toward minimalism, an aesthetic that would later become central to the design of Apple's products. India, with its spirituality and culture, offered Jobs a completely new perspective on life, purpose, and the pursuit of simplicity. He would later reflect on this experience as crucial in shaping his ideas about his products and leading his teams. It seems he may have forgotten some of these lessons over time, as many employees claim Jobs was difficult to work with, being very demanding, perfectionist, and somewhat authoritarian. Every hero has their two sides, right? Regardless, the time spent on India also reinforced his belief in intuition as a valuable decision-making tool, both personally and professionally. Upon returning to Silicon Valley, utterly transformed after this profound spiritual experience, Jobs had no idea he would have to face significant problems to realize his ideas and manifest his dreams. Steve had a strong desire to create products that were both utilitarian and aesthetically pleasing, a fusion of the lessons of minimalism and functionality that Jobs had absorbed in his trip. However, this period after his return was full of challenges. Jobs' adaptation to the conventional business world was complicated by his aversion to bureaucracy and aggressive practices common in the business world. This is when Jobs received support from a great ally. As with every hero's journey, the protagonist finds friends, mentors, or guides who arrive at the right moment to help them fulfill their personal legend. In Jobs' case, he had a friendship from adolescence, a guy known as Steve Wozniak. But this reunion happened at the ideal time. Woz, as he was affectionately called, was the classic misunderstood genius, a mix of a nerd and a shy boy. Despite his very creative mind and innovative ideas, Woz had difficulty establishing business partnerships and selling his products. Therefore, Jobs was his right-hand man. He was the sales guy, the businessman who had a vision of how the products could be positioned in the market, conducted commercial meetings, and knew how to create a brand around them like no one else, in addition to having a remarkable ability to promote his creations in public. Sharing their talents and forming a formidable partnership, Jobs and his friend Steve Wozniak began to consolidate a project that would become Apple Computer Inc. The two young men managed to compete head-to-head with major technology companies and had fierce disputes with none other than Microsoft. But every hero faces their battles and needs to defeat villains. This was a time with little ethics in the business world, often involving espionage, leaks of confidential information, and large companies doing everything to discover the secrets of each new technology. These challenges tested Jobs' resilience and forced him to balance his idealistic vision with the harsh realities of the business world. Each of these obstacles served as a valuable lesson, teaching Jobs the importance of persistence, believing in his vision for the future, and the ability to adapt and grow with adversity. This period of trials was crucial not only for Jobs' development as a business leader, but also for establishing Apple as an innovative company, laying the groundwork for the launch of products that would revolutionize technology and communication. Under his renewed leadership, Jobs introduced a series of innovations that redefined not only Apple but entire industries. The iMac, launched in 1998, was the first manifestation of this new era, followed by the iPod in 2001, which transformed the music industry. The iPhone, introduced in 2007, revolutionized the concept of smartphones, becoming a cultural icon and setting the standard for mobile devices to this day. The iPad, launched in 2010, opened a new market for tablets, significantly influencing media and entertainment consumption. These creations were not just products, they were the materialization of the lessons learned by Jobs throughout his journey. The importance of design, simplicity, and seamless integration between hardware and software. Steve Jobs' journey is a powerful testimony to resilience, vision, and innovation. His ability to turn adversities into opportunities, to learn from failures, and to always look to the future are valuable lessons for us all. At the end of his journey, like all great heroes, Jobs returned with the elixir, in the form of revolutionary products, but also left a lasting legacy that continues to influence how we live, work, and communicate. Did you already know the brilliant trajectory of this technology genius who impacted the world? If you enjoyed this content, please leave a like to reach more people. And if you like inspiring stories of ordinary people who became real-life heroes, subscribe to our channel to catch the next episodes of the hero's journey. That's it for today. I'll see you next time.